Hey, everybody.
What's going on?
Long time no see.
Yeah. I was getting into that music in the background. You should have like background music for this thing.
I could do that. I got that on here.
Probably should do that because like other shows have that, like going to conservative shows and stuff. Like
Do they?
easy
Just
going
like
background music.
here, let's see here. Let's see here.
That's a far contrast from what we're playing.
Not that. Is it working now? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Here I was horsing around and I screwed something up.
You lost me for a minute or what?
Yeah. Yeah, I was trying to play this music to see if it worked, but it
Should have thought of it earlier, but one of our fans contacted me that he'd like me to use a song in our videos. His,
Oh, really?
His friend who's a country music artist died, and he had a song about the outdoors.
Oh.
And he said we could have permission to use it in a video. I think using it on here would be cool.
Yeah, we could.
Just background music. Just one show.
Can you hear that now? Can you hear that now?
Not anymore. It kind of faded out.
Oh. Just the whole time, just play a soft rock music.
Yeah. There you go. That sounds good, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I'll have to see what people in the comments think about that. That may get annoying.
Actually, it's kind of distracting. Maybe
yeah. Let me turn it back off. Yeah, there's some stuff like that on here. What's been going on, Dan? I haven't talked to you much. I was hunting and busy all weekend with Mother's Day and stuff. So,
yeah, Ricky blew the head off of one.
Yeah, he did.
He did good.
Almost literally.
Even though I wasn't there, it was kind of like I was because we were doing a play-by-play. Me, him, and Dave on the phone. You know.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, they're not coming over. They're coming over. Oh, they're not coming over." It's like, dude, just be patient. They'll come over. They'll make their way over there.
Oh, that's funny. I bet he was excited. The video was good. The
when I was editing the footage, you could hear the Tom gobbling behind him, and I'm like, I told you, if they're behind you, they'll come in from behind you. Why are you looking forward? And he's like, oh, those Jakes, they probably won't come in, but if they'd at least come over here, I'd get an and you hear this Tom behind him. I'm like, dude, stop looking at the Jakes and look out the other window.
Oh, that's funny. I should have killed one in Wisconsin. I was there for 2 days and I just made some dumb mistakes and didn't kill one. If I wouldn't have had a camera, I probably would have killed one. The very last time I had one come in, but I was on birds both days. Just couldn't get a shot off on one. But I'm working on that video now, so that'll come up on the beast this week sometime. It's tough, or it's tough for me running and gunning by yourself and trying to film and stuff. I had a system figured out, and my GoPro mount broke, so that was like I screwed myself. You're on out of state hunt too. I didn't really have any way of fixing it, but I had like a camera clamped onto my gun, and I must have broke it when I was crawling around or something, and then it wouldn't clamp on my gun anymore. So I was trying to, I was just sneaking up on things and trying to get set up quick, and it was kind of a mess, but I did the best I could. If I would have had that stupid mount, I probably would have killed one, but it was fun. I learned a lot and made those mistakes that I probably won't make again, or not as often at least. I had one, man. At like 11 o'clock in the middle of the day, I hit a box call real loud, and one just like gobbled way off. Like I could hear like, oh, I'm like, ooh. And I probably covered like 200 yards real quick. And I hit it again a little softer, and he gobbled again. And I kind of moved, and he was still a little ways off. and I moved maybe another 40 yards and got set up, and I sat there and I got kind of impatient, and I hit a call again, and he gobbled again, but it sounded like he was farther away almost. I'm like, crap. And where I was sitting at was like um, on a side of a ridge, and then there was a valley, and then it went up the other ridge, and he sounded like he was up on the other ridge somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh man, maybe he went like on the other side of that other ridge, and I'm like, crap, he's going away from me, you know. And then I knew there was a creek down in the bottom, and I thought maybe he didn't want to cross. Maybe he was like, well, not interested in crossing that creek for some reason. You know how they do stupid things like that where they won't cross certain things. So I was like walking down there real quick to get across that creek, and I was going to call to him again. And I no more than got across that creek, and I looked up, and here he was just walking to me, and I'm like, gosh, dang it. And he saw me, and I'm like, if I'd have just sat there for 5 more minutes, I'd have seen him coming down the low area, you know. But come to find out, there was like a cut that I didn't notice that went off the valley, and he was down in there gobbling. He that's why he sounded far away, is because he was actually, but he was coming. He just was in a low area. But
I've had that hills where they sound like they're coming in, and all of a sudden you're getting further and further away.
Yeah.
And you start moving in, you realize they went in a dip, and that's why they sound further away.
Yeah, that's exactly what he did.
Downhill, back up, you know.
Yep. Yeah. He instead of coming straight down the ridge into the big valley, he like must have went down like into a little side cut and was coming in. But I'm not kidding you. Like it was like, I mean, I was set up perfect and everything for where because I could tell it was real thick in the bottom and it kind of opened up. I'm like, oh, if he's going to come, I bet he'll come through here. And I set up right there, and I mean, he was coming right to that area. But anyway, that was my biggest like screw up one, I guess, that I got frustrated with. I just should have been more patient, but my mind got to racing about like, oh, he's moving away, or maybe he's don't want to cross that creek. I'm going to get across that creek at least, then set up again. And I don't know. If I'd just been patient, I'd have killed him.
Yeah,
but.
you know, it's a little give and take. I mean, I've blown a lot of them because of impatience.
Oh yeah,
when running gunning. But there's also plenty of times where I sat too long, and you think, well, if I would have just put a little more time into finding a different bird, I would probably, you know.
Yeah,
it's give and take. You gotta know when to quit and when not to, and a lot of times you're wrong. I mean, I can't tell you how many times you sit in a spot and you call a bird, and you call him, and he doesn't come, and you leave, and you come back through, and you see that bird standing where you were. I've learned that if you're working them, a lot of times eventually they show up. Like the hens get sick of them, or they get sick of the hens, or the hens go nest or whatever, and they'll end up. They might be a stupid bird with a pea brain, but they remember where they heard that calling and they show up.
Yeah. Yep. I had one, and this was right before I was getting ready to leave. I hunted the evening, the second evening, and I left in the evening there before like last light. And I got on this one tom that was like gobbling out in the middle of a field. And in the middle of this field, there was like a drainage in the middle of it. And there was a few trees and stuff. Well, I was in the woods, probably like this field's a giant field. And I hit that box call again. This was after I had screwed this turkey up, like maybe an hour and a half after it or more. And that tom gobbled out in the middle of that field. I'm like, oh, he's out there with hens, you know, I guarantee it. There's no, and I got to the edge of the woods where I could almost see into that field. I couldn't see him because the field kind of did some dips and stuff. And I called again, and he gobbled again, but I could tell he was walking away in the field. I was sure of it this time, you know. The dips weren't that big. I just couldn't see him. And so I kind of just set up on the edge of the field and just kind of waited. And I probably sat there for 2 hours. He stood out in that field for 2 hours and he ended up having two hens with him. But every time I called, he would get a little farther away. And I think I'm sure those hens were like, pulling him away from me. Yeah. And I sat there for 2 hours, and I kind of got impatient. I'm like, gosh, this is a long time to sit here, you know? And I got on my Onyx. I noticed I could kind of get closer to him. If I kind of went in the woods and circled around, I could get in that little draw. At least I could see him, you know. So I did that, and I got set up about 150 yards from him. And I got set up, and I was sitting there, and I called again, and he gobbled. And like maybe 5 minutes later, I couldn't actually see him at this point in time. There was like a tree in our way, but I could tell where they were now. Like I could pinpoint right where they were. And then all of a sudden, those two hens like came into the sight to my left. They came out from behind this tree, and they were heading away from me. The two hens were. They weren't spooked or anything. They're just walking away. I'm like, crap. They're going to just pull him farther away, you know? And they didn't. They never did. That Tom never did leave that field. And he stood right between me and that tree where I couldn't see him. And those hens left. And he sat there and sat there and sat there. And I called one more time. And then I was like, I'm going to shut up. And I'm like kind of texting Jacob this entire time. And he's got giving me tips and stuff, you know, on what I should do at this particular time. He hunted this property I was on. And I ended up just kind of putting the call down and waiting. And kind of was hoping that he would get curious and like, where'd that hen go, you know, and come over to me. Well, instead of coming to me, he like popped out of the right side of that tree, and he like went up this little like slope on the field to get like a higher view. And he just like paced back and forth looking up my direction. He was looking for a hen, you know, and he would have been able to see it. I was literally sitting in this like little bush area that was in that little drainage. You could have seen anything around me other than me. You know, he couldn't see me, but, and he didn't see anything. And he finally just like turned around and walked straight away from me. So I like got up real quick and circled all the way around that big field and got up it was actually by the road now. And there's like maybe 50 yards of woods between the road and the field. And I was just walking along the field edge. I could see the field now, and he wasn't in the field anymore. And I got to where I thought maybe he'd be, and I called again, and that sucker was probably 50 yards from me in that woods whenever I called. And he just like, he like freaked out, you know. And I just plopped down into the field and on the edge of the field in the woods. It was like a CRP area. And I just sat down on that CRP, and it was like there were some little trees and stuff, and I kind of hunched down on these little trees. And I thought he would come out in front of me. It's kind of where I set up, you know, and it would have been perfect if he would have. But he ended up coming out of the field like straight, like behind me and to my left a little bit. And I had my camera over here on my right side. And he was only 30 yards from me when he came out. But I couldn't get everything over and then shoot. I just couldn't do it. And he ended up like working his way back. And he went back in the woods, and he started gobbling again back in the woods. And he came out in the field again. And I had repositioned, but he came out farther than I could shoot him. And he came out and looked around again, didn't see anything, and then he freaked out again and left.
Some of those older birds got to see the hen, you know?
Yeah.
They know better.
Yeah. But he got excited whenever I hit that call, and I was only 50 yards from him. Like he couldn't see me in the field. He was like down in the woods, and the woods goes like down to the road. So he couldn't see up in the field at all. So I was like, "Oh, you're freaking dead." And he just came out the wrong spot.
Sometimes I did better without the decoys though, because they'd come in looking, and they'd eventually make it over to you looking around. But when you put the decoys out, sometimes those older toms would hold back about 50 yards.
Yeah.
Try to make the hen come to them.
Right.
Like come right to you.
Right.
Well, what started working with us when we were running gun was to put the decoys way behind us. Like to put them like 20 yards behind us. Because then if they come to 50, 60 yards,
they're in range. That's a good idea. I probably would have killed him that first time. I mean, I'd had a better chance if I'd had a decoy. If I'd have set a decoy out when I had him in the middle of that field, you know. But I didn't have one with me. I didn't care. I didn't have one with me. So, but it was fun. I mean,
it's hard with the running gunning to carry decoys and guns and cameras and.
Oh man, yeah, yep. I had one with me the first day. I carried a hen with me, and the second day I'm like, I'm not bringing this stupid thing. I'll just do without it, you know. And then I was like, crap, I wish I had it, you know. But it is what it is. But it was fun. I'd roosted birds both mornings. I was sitting on top of birds both mornings, so I was in birds the entire time. There's only one on the first day there was a little lull there for a while, but that last day, that second bird, or I guess it was technically the third bird I got on. I was on him for like 5 hours. I mean, I kind of stayed on his case until the very end there. Whenever he finally got tired of me screwing with him and got out of there, but he would have been. I really wanted to. I really wanted to bring him home with me, but oh well.
So use a rifle and reach him then.
Yeah, he would have been. Yeah, he'd have been in trouble if I had a rifle.
70.
Yep. There's not very many states you can shoot with a rifle, is there? I think you can in like Texas or.
It's a couple, yeah.
Yeah.
Texas and I think there's some eastern state too that I know of.
Oh, really?
Virginia or one of them. I'm not sure. Maybe somebody on the forum knows, but I know there's more than Texas. It's one other place at least.
Yeah.
Just seems odd to hunt them with a rifle.
It seems like it'd be pretty easy. Yeah. I mean, just get them in the field and sneak up to the edge of the woods and blink them at whatever 100 yards, 150 yards, whatever, however far you could shoot. You know. I don't know.
It would take kind of the fun out of it early, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, then I had to get home for Mother's Day weekend and all that. So, you do anything good for Mother's Day?
I just spent the weekend with Carol. We went some rummages and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, messed around in the yard, set up my bows, shot them a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Did that go okay, or did you?
Not really. Both of them are a little wobbly. I think I might have had some string stretches because they're brand new.
Yeah.
So I'm going to play with that a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, that happens. I mean, that's why you mess with them right now, right?
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly. I'm really getting ticked off about that building. It's the guy keeps giving me the runaround. All he's got to do is a couple things, and then he's done, and I'm going to bring in somebody else. But he's got to finish what I have paid for, kind of like the electrical and
right.
Crap, so I'm getting a little ticked off about it. Because once I get the building done, I can do a lot more. Because I'm sitting here cluttered with crap, you know.
Yeah, I know. I was gonna set my bow up today and make a video about it. And I bought my grandma. My grandma lives next door to me. She has birds that live in her lean-to off the side of her house, and it drives her crazy because they poop everywhere on her porch and stuff, or on her walkway. And I bought her bird wire to go up there so they can't get in there. And I was going to put it up for her today, and I thought it was going to take me like an hour. You know, it ended up taking me like 3 hours. So I didn't I didn't get to shoot my bow or put my bow together, but I got time. But made her happy, so put that up and power washed her house for her. So that was her Mother's Day gift. You want to get into all of our news stories today, Dan? I got 3 of them up here.
Really? Yeah.
Two of them you know about, and then one of them you don't. But I'll give you the rundown on it on here. It's a pretty short article, but let me share my screen here. So this happened in Alaska, naturally. But they had a moose walk into a movie theater on them.
Probably just wanted some popcorn.
Yeah, I think that's the theme of the video. He goes over there and eats a bunch of popcorn and leaves. It looks like a calf to me. That has to be a calf. A freaking adult moose is like it's had to be out of the screen right there. But what would you do if you're sitting in a movie theater and a moose walked in, Dan?
I'd probably go over and hand feed it some popcorn, get some selfies with it. They're actually, I don't know if you know this, but a lot of people don't. They're more dangerous than bears.
Oh yeah, they're super dangerous, especially a mom with her calves.
Yeah, moose kill more people than bears do.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They stomp
my buddy that I used to work with, he was in the Northeast, was his territory, where he sold feed ingredients, and I go up there with him quite a bit. And in Maine up there, one time I wasn't with him, but he was traveling, and he got on he was driving down the road and saw a a moose with her calf, and he was like, he got out and it's like, he was like seeing how close he could get to, and he called me during this like adventure he was going on, seeing how close he could get to this mom moose, this cow. And I'm like, buddy, you better just get back in your truck. I said, that's about as dangerous as you can get right there with with a cow and her calf, And he's like, really? I'm like, yeah. Like you'd be safer getting out and looking for a black bear than that moose right now. He's
so,
like, oh.
That being Alaska, I wouldn't doubt it if she just left the popcorn as it was.
just went on with business. Business as usual.
I think she was like a greenhead or something. Didn't she have some colored hair? Those greenheads don't care about nobody else. She's probably like, I ain't eating popcorn, but I'll sell it. $8 a box. And you're like, oh, yeah,
it probably is
kind of wet.
We took. Why is there so much hair in my popcorn? We took Huck to see the movie the other day, his first movie, and it was that stuff's expensive.
Right, that's really expensive. You see that other dude in the background there in the image you got up there right now?
Yeah.
Whoever that is, whether it's a dude or a gal or whatever, came walking around and just like
I can't imagine.
Like, oh, there's a moose.
This probably happens like every other Saturday.
See, there he comes.
It's
like,
yeah.
What the heck? You kind of.
Whoa. There's always something like this happening, though. It seems like I've seen like whitetails in buildings that come through, automatic sliding doors and stuff.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen much, but I've definitely seen it happen. I don't know. It's crazy. Pretty cool though.
Don't it?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's see here. That was one of them we were wanting to show. This one was super cool. Let me pull it up here. So this was found in Norway. It's a 1,500-year-old arrow.
Is that tip like metal?
I don't know.
It almost looks like it's a steel, don't it?
It could be. I don't know.
Like iron or something.
I don't know. I mean, they had all that back in those days. They very well could have been, but
yeah, I think what I read was that was actually sinew and everything. I mean, it was just 1,500-year-old arrow.
Yep, it was in a glacier that
thawed out of a glacier. Yeah.
Yep, or melting ice in Norway. Probably not a glacier, but have you ever found any arrowheads or anything like that, Dan?
A few.
Oh, really?
Many. Yeah.
I know
people find a lot of them. I don't. And I'm always looking at rocks and stuff. But I found one in where I grew up as a kid that was really nice, a really good looking one. And I found a few around here, but they're usually pretty busted up.
Yeah. Yep. I've never found any. I have a buddy he has a piece of private he hunts, and it must have been like a place where Indians were around a lot, because he's found like over a dozen there. And I know down here where I live in the bottoms, a lot of people go and hunt them down there in the fields. After like a farmer tills a field or something, you'll see people walking around in the tilled up fields looking for arrowheads. I've definitely never found a full arrow like this, but
you can't. I mean, the wood deteriorates.
Yeah, right.
The reason that wood is still around is because of the ice.
Yeah. Yep. I don't know, man. Anymore, there's so many people like tinker around with this like traditional primitive stuff. This is probably some jackwagon from last season that was trying to kill something, and
he was on a loan. He made an arrow out of crap he found and shot a muskox. And Never
Yeah.
found.
Oh, that very well could have been.
I mean, you look at the end of that arrow; it almost looks like that it's machine cut.
I don't know. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. It was pretty cool though. It's pretty cool to
I
think
wonder what
about
kind
that.
of feathers it would be.
I don't
What kind of
know.
animal feathers it'd be.
I don't know what would be in Norway back that many years ago.
Yeah,
You know.
1,500 years ago. Pterodactyl, maybe.
Yeah. They it's crazy what people went through to, just even just make an arrow to hunt with, and I guess they had a lot more time on their hands than we do nowadays. But
Yeah. I mean, I can understand that arrow is probably worth a lot of money to a
yeah.
museum or something. It'd be pretty cool to take that arrow, recycle it, and shoot something with it.
Oh man, that'd be super cool. Yeah. I was watching. There's a Meteor episode where he goes to like a uncivilized country, and goes with like tribes back in the jungle and hunts with them, and he has like a Matthews bow with him, and they're all shooting these like primitive things that they made, and he said that they have no interest in having a bow like that Matthews. I guess
Mm-hmm.
people were giving Steve like a lot of crap about like not leaving that for them to use, and he's like they can't use it. Like once they're out of arrows with it, they have no way of getting more. It's like not there's no use for them
But they
for it.
got
Like
ways of getting more arrows that just blow it up. They make them out of wood.
yeah, right, right. But he's like they're doing fine. Like they kill just as much as they would with
Right.
something real primitive, with real modern as they would with that. Um, but they were using like great big long. The arrows they were using on the episode were crazy looking. They were like I don't know, like 5 feet long. The arrows were, and they had this great big long bow that they used, and
Yeah.
pretty crazy. They were bow fishing with them, but it's a real interesting episode.
People are always like that. You ever notice in the comments, like you be fishing and some kids next to you, and you're like, "Oh, I'll help them out a little bit," and you let them use your rod or something, and you get comments, "You should have gave me your rod. You should give me your
Yeah,
tackle box. Kid doesn't look like he can afford a truck. Why didn't you give him your truck?"
yeah.
You see comments like that a lot.
This was like when I first started filming with the hunting beast. I like sold some trail cameras or something uh, on the Facebook forum,
Mm-hmm.
There was like 3 or 4 people like you should just give those away. I'm like, what? What? I had to pay for these. Like I don't get anything free yet. Like I just like I'm just a normal dude at the moment, What are you guys talking about? So maybe you should just donate them to someone. I'm like, oh, sorry. Like, I just kind of get some extra cash here for buying tags, but
Already
yeah.
giving our lives to you guys. What else you want?
No, most people aren't like that. And now I probably would, but back then it was like, geez, like these people are brutal, I'm like, I'm selling these to buy different ones. But anyway, yeah, that was the third one we were wanting to show. This one is probably one we'll talk about for a little longer. This is the one Dan doesn't know about yet, and there's not really much to show. I'll pop the article up here on the screen just to give the news station some credit here, but I don't know why all these things happen in Michigan for some reason, but it seems like every news article we have that's kind of weird is in Michigan. But this little boy who in the article is 13 years old, he saved his 8-year-old sister with a slingshot from someone that was trying to kidnap her in their backyard. A 17-year-old was, I guess, like came into their backyard, grabbed his sister, had her like hand over his mouth, the little boy said, and he shot the guy in the head and in the chest with a slingshot, and he dropped her and ran away. And the state police found him, I guess, and arrested the guy with the like severe wounds they described it as on his head and his chest.
Nice.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
We ought to do a GoFundMe and buy that kid a 40 cal Glock.
Yeah.
More responsible than most adults.
Yeah. Dude, that like, it made me happy. Like, I'm like, good for that kid, you know,
Right.
like to know. And this town, I don't remember what town it was in, but it's in like northeast lower Michigan. Alpine, I think it's what it's called. But yeah, I mean, you know, that kid he probably goes out every day with that slingshot and screws around with it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And good on him to like think about that whenever his little sister, when he saw his little sister, you know, something really bad getting ready to happen to her. I don't know. You don't hear many things getting stopped with slingshots anymore, you know.
Yeah.
David and Goliath, I guess. But anyway, did you ever mess with slingshots, Dan?
Shot some carp with them. I made a slingshot bow. I mounted a like a traditional type spool on a slingshot.
Yeah.
And mounted an arrow rest on it and put a string loop where the pad you put the pellet is in. And then that kept breaking on me, so I shopped around until I could find the rubber things for super duper slingshot, so it was be stronger. And I got one with an arm brace, so I needed enough force. And I kept screwing with it until I was able to shoot carp with it and kill them. And then I got bored with it.
Yeah.
But it was fun to tinker with it until I got it to work.
They make some like commercial ones now where you can shoot arrows with them.
I never really did much with slingshots when I was a kid because, I mean, I had access to guns when I was about 9, so I never really went through the shot phase.
I didn't either. I always had like pellet guns and stuff like that.
You know, in the day, my dad was a good dad. You know, nowadays they throw him in prison. You know, because he was like, when I was 9, he's like, here's the gun cabinet, here's where the bullets are. Anything happens around here, if you're the kid that slingshot his sister, no, you shoot him in the head. You know, here's the guns.
Yeah.
So I had complete access to him when he wasn't home. And, you know, to some degree, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you hear people nowadays, you got to keep your guns locked up from your kids. No, you got to understand your kids. You got to know if they're responsible or not. You're responsible for them. Mm-hmm. If they make a mistake, you're responsible. So, in my opinion, it's up to the parents to know when their kids are ready. You know, the law is the law, but you know, you need to beyond the law be preparing your kids. You know, if you keep guns away from kids and you shelter them from guns until they're an adult, you know, then they got this, they want to see it. There's this mystic about the gun, you know. Yeah, if you train them about guns and you're always around guns. I mean, all the kids when I was a kid had guns, were around guns. Nobody shot each other. Nobody went on shooting sprees. Nobody, you know, went killing people. It was, you know, but different time. Dress up like women either and dance around and, you know.
Except for you guys, you and Eric.
Yeah. Rick did. Rick always dressed like a girl when we were kids.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, no, he's not here to defend himself. He may be in the comments.
I gotta give him crap because he's like homophobe or something. He's like, whatever we do, I am not wearing the dress.
You and Eric had to.
It's like, man, you're a little too scared of that, Rick. It's bothering you a little too much.
Brent was saying in the comment section that Eric really skimped on the outfit compared to Dan.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, everybody hit the like button. If you guys have questions for us tonight, put them in the comment section and just leave a question mark beforehand. We didn't really have a whole lot to talk about tonight other than my little turkey hunt and these 3 articles. So I'll probably start BSing with Dan, and then when I see a question, we'll answer it. You got a turkey tag, Nick? What?
If anybody didn't see it, I put you made a short of the video of Rick dressing up like a transvestite and put that on my channel. So there's a short of it now, so you don't have to watch Rick turkey hunt. If you don't watch it. He's a great caller, though.
Yeah. Oh man. Yep.
Is he
Let's
on
see.
tonight?
I haven't seen him in here, but I haven't got very far in the comments section. All right, we had a question here. Is it better to wait for a cold front to hunt a good spot if the wind's right, public or private, or hunt if the weather's mild and warm? So he's asking if you should wait for essentially those perfect days to hunt a good spot.
It depends on where and how you're hunting. Totally. Mm-hmm. So most of my hunts, I'm going into a bedding area. I'm hunting a deer that's bedding in a certain area for a certain reason, a certain time. When he comes out, if he's there, he's dead. He comes out. I mean, I'm set up right on top of him. But there's certain scenarios where, like, I got to be further back. I can't get as close as I want to. I need him to move a little further. I might be looking for an overcast day or a Hail Mary with a cold front or something for that. If I'm hunting rut and I'm hunting all day, I might be waiting for a cold front. Yeah. And there's some people that hunt food sources and stuff. I mean, if you're sitting on a food plot or something like that, then cold fronts are really important. If you're hunting bedding, it really don't matter as long as you get the wind in your face and the deer's bedded in there.
Yep, that's what I was getting ready to say. Mine's solely usually based on wind is what I think about foremost, and then usually if the other things are lining up, I'm like, oh, cool, all right. That's kind of the caveat to that. Now, if you can only hunt a couple days, and if you waste your day here because for whatever reason, but next Saturday is going to be better, and if you hunt today and you can't hunt next Saturday, maybe you wait. Yeah. I don't know, but
I have a lot of people that I hunt with will just, they're gone if it gets hot out. They'll leave early. You go on hunting trips, they're like, I'm out of here because it's like 80. No, deer ain't gonna move, and it's like, what are you talking about? I hunt bedding. I shoot deer in 80 degrees. I shoot them in 20 degrees. And I've shot a lot of deer in really hot weather, stagnant weather, right up close to bedding. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I move to water if we got a few days in a row that are real hot like that. Yep. Water next to bedding. They still move. They still move in daylight in the evenings.
2 of my bucks I killed. One of them was in September, early season, so I don't know if that really counts, but it was like 92 degrees when I went to the stand. And then the one here in Indiana, it was in the high 70s, in October. I was in a t-shirt. I shot that deer in a t-shirt. So
yeah, that water hole bucket was 85 degrees.
Yep.
I had sweat dripping off my nose.
Yep. Ron has a good idea. He wants a like this show's chat deer challenge. You could do like a big buck contest for the chat
challenge
before the echo.
I was wondering if maybe it's out whoever could talk deer the best,
Yeah. That would be cool though, to we could keep a tally on people who come into the chat, the biggest deer they killed next year. And then after the season, we could do like a giveaway or something. I don't know. Your next tag's next week, right, Dan? Next Wednesday?
I think so. I need to look. I don't think it's Wednesday. I think it's the Wednesday after.
Oh.
I have to look.
Yeah, you
better check that. Because I believe there's 2 weeks left, and I think I got the last week. I thought this next week was the last week, but it's not. Rick's got this coming week.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Rick has 2 in a row. Yep. There was something else I was going to say on everybody. Oh, Iowa's coming up for their draw results. So put in your preference points and all that.
I'll put in for tag.
Yeah. Well, I was just reminding everybody if they forgot, which I got. My buddy Tim told me not to remind people of Iowa. Sorry, Tim. When is the actual date of that to be up? Do you know? Is it the end of the month?
I'm not sure.
We're
probably halfway there, I think.
I bet it's the end of the month. Leave it in the comments section if anybody knows. I think it's the end of the month. Hope it is, because I haven't done mine yet. First Saturday in May through the first Saturday in June. There you go. We got time. Did you put in already, Dan?
Yes. Putting the first date reminder came out.
I set a reminder on my phone for today, and I still didn't do it today. I was out putting fence in my grandma's lean-to whenever it popped up, and maybe I'll do it once I get off here. Let's see here. Zeke, you should leave a comment in the comment section. Just let us know if little Zeke got any turkeys yet this year. I don't think he had. I think he shot at one. Do what?
Did Zeke get a little beak? Some beak action?
Yep. I know he shot at one with a crossbow and had a miss, but I think he had a pretty good time from what his dad said. He was pretty fired up about even getting a shot off on one. You always worry about like kids whenever they're hunting and they make a mistake, how it'll affect them, if they'll be like upset and not end up wanting to go again. But it sounds like to me that Zeke was all right with it, and was more excited about getting an opportunity than more mad at himself. Let's see here. Got a donation here. Let's see the. Thanks for the super sicker D sizzle. Someone call you, Dan?
Yeah.
Oh,
sorry.
No, you're good. All right. Here's another question. Jonah asks, how frequently will a buck cross water that he has to swim across? And does it matter how wide the creek and river is?
That's a good question. I can't really give a lockdown answer to that, but I can say that I've seen him swim across larger stretches of water on a regular basis in unique situations, but not very often. Like to get to a certain island, especially in pressured areas where the islands weren't pressured. Nowadays, I think the islands get a little more pressure on those big rivers and stuff from boat traffic and stuff. But they tend the best islands and the best water crossings I've seen a deer can walk across.
Yeah,
it can be deeper, but they can walk on the bottom and walk across. As soon as they got to start swimming, it gets more and more likely they won't go across on a regular basis. Yeah. But I have seen it happen on certain occasions. I seen it one time in Iowa where all the deer were coming into the oxbow and they had to cross a pretty deep section of river where they could not touch the bottom.
Really?
To get onto the oxbow, and they were doing it, But usually, the wider the water is, the less likely, and the deeper. So they like to have a little cover when they cross water because they feel vulnerable, and they don't like to be swimming. Doesn't mean they can't do it or won't do it. Just
right.
Like it.
I have to imagine they had to have some anxiety about being in, swimming in water. That has to feel pretty slow to them,
That's the same thing. Like a lot of people will tell me that they've found a perfect bedding point going out into a lake, and it's like you're not going to find a mature buck out there.
Yeah, right.
The big part about those bedding points is that they have escape.
Yeah,
that not one way, but they can jump out the back door because they pull you down that land bridge, and using a wide river for escape, or a deep river is a little less likely. You know what I mean? They got to be able to take 2 bounds and they're gone.
Yep. All right. Johnny was asking those. What's the score of those 3 bucks in the barn pick that Dan asked? Which one would you shoot? You remember the scores of those 3 bucks, Dan?
If we go net scores, one was the 15-pointer was 180. The 8-pointer was 140, and the 9-pointer was in the mid 160s.
Which one was your most memorable of those 3?
No, probably the 9-pointer.
Why is that?
400-pound slob buck. I shot him at point blank with the bow. He took one jump, looked back at me, and just fell over dead. It was crazy.
What percentage of the bucks you've killed do you think have you seen fall over dead with a bow and arrow at least?
I don't know. If I had to guess, I'd say probably about 30%. I don't know.
Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day about just um, we were messing with my mounts and stuff, and it's not very many of them. But man, that's a good feeling whenever you like shoot one and then they
Yeah,
fall
there
over
might even
20.
be less than 30% because you're usually in thick cover. You just don't see them die.
Yeah, when I was the first one, the one I vividly remember was when I was like 16. I killed a decent 11 pointer, and I I shot him right at last light,
Mm-hmm.
and he was over a scrape, on the edge of a cornfield that wasn't still in, and I shot him at like 10 yards, and I remember, and I was only 16. I was pretty inexperienced at that time, and he like bounded like three big bounds, and he stood at like 40 yards and like was looking back at me and just fell over dead. And I was like, holy cow, and you just like, it's crazy what a what a bow and arrow will do. I
You know,
remember
you
when
know,
I
the crazy ones are the ones that you're not sure if you killed them or whatever, and then
yeah
you're like in a panic mode, and then they tip over.
yeah
So you go
yeah
from like terrorized to like excited in seconds.
yeah, and it like reminds you how freaking tough those animals are, where they're like, you shoot them with the arrow and a broadhead and they act like nothing even happened, for a little bit. um I don't know.
So I had one crazy one. I think that was also an 11 pointer, and that one, um, I put a friend on it. We were watching it before season. I was glassing it coming in and out of this bedding area, and I put a friend on it, and he blew it. And I put another friend on it, and he blew it. And then I decided to go in after it myself after those guys couldn't get it done, and it kind of disappeared. It came back later, and the buck I was planning on killing didn't work out, and it was a pretty nice deer, so I thought I'd go after it. And it was bedding. I found it bedding in the same bedding area, but coming out a back way. It
Mm-hmm.
was like a larger thicket, and I set up on it about 100 yards from the bedding area because it was the first trees you could get into. And there's several trails you could come by me on, but it was like an open area. Like usually with those big bucks, they come through open grass and cattails.
Right.
And it happened to take the one trail that went straight directly underneath me. I mean, to the point of like right at the base of my tree. So I'm just waiting for this thing to turn at all to give me a shot. And it wouldn't. It gets to the base of my tree. And I can't shoot it behind me. And I thought, well, I'll put one right between its shoulder blades. And I was aiming straight down at it. And when I released, my sight for my eye wasn't the same as the flight of the arrow.
Mm-hmm.
So the arrow just ticked a branch, wobbled through the air, went sideways and wonky, and ended up hitting it 1 inch from the tail. And I got about that much penetration, and blood almost hit me in the tree stand. It was
Yeah.
geyser. I severed that artery in its leg,
Mm-hmm.
and it took a couple jumps, and it just had this like it looked like a hose, a red hose was running out of the back of it.
Jeez.
And it stopped, turned around and looked at me, and just fell over dead. And it died faster than a heart shot.
Mm. That has to be a emotional swing there. 'Cause I'm sure
Yeah,
when
it
you
was
saw the
pretty crazy.
arrow
It's pretty
going,
crazy.
yeah.
The arrow didn't even stay in. I mean, it went in it just went in like 2 or 3 inches and just popped out because it had no impact. I mean, I actually cut into a limb on its way to the deer, and the arrow was tumbling through the air and just happened to slap it in the rear end and stick in a little bit.
Yep. Mm. All right.
Sometimes you're better
Elizabeth,
off lucky than good.
for most of the time. Elizabeth had a question. She asked, what's the magic trick for deer if it's over 60? You have any
Degrees
like yeah?
disappear.
Do you have any like tips on if it is warmer out?
The
Do you do
magic
anything
trick is
different?
that you just got to hunt them where they move when it's warm. So they don't move during the day. They're broad daylight, move around and walk around all day when it's sunny and hot as much. You got to get into the shaded, cooler areas. You got to get where there's water. If there's a shaded hillside, they'll probably be in that area, especially if it's been hot for a few days in a row. where they discover, they get to shift over to those spots. Sometimes it's not something that's instant. Like you get one hot day and all of a sudden they're on water and they're in the shade and stuff. It takes them a day or two to figure that out. So when you get consistent days like that in a row, that's what really starts to help you out with that cooler areas, water, those kind of things on around that.
All right. D Sizzle asked, if you bump a buck off his bed, will he return the same day or a few days later, or is he gone?
A little of all of that.
Yes.
It depends on the temperament of the buck. Every buck's different. Every buck has different life experiences. I've seen it where I've been on stand. Pheasant hunters come through and you watch a buck get up, move out of the way, watch the pheasant hunters go by and walk back to his bed and lay down. And I've watched bucks where you jump them things and they run for a mile.
Yeah.
And every one of them is different. What I have found, contrary to common belief, is that the older the buck, the more likely it is not to go far. They get to trust their bedding areas and hole up in little areas more often once they get to be like 5, 6, 7 years old. And it's hard to kick them out of those areas. But so they'll just kind of walk circles around you, but stay there.
Mm-hmm. I think anytime you bump one, it's worth paying attention to that area the next 24 hours, for sure.
If you bump a real good one, you'd be a fool to just leave.
Yep.
I'll do one of two things. I'll either try to figure out where it went, if I think it left the area, or I will try to set up on it coming back. And what I've learned over the years is that I want to set up downwind of where I jumped him and downwind of where he wants to go. Like the first transition, that first hard transition, because he's going to circle and he's going to use that transition for cover, and he's going to try and watch and smell to see if you're there. So he's going to go to the downwind side. And that's what I've seen most of the time when they come back to that bedding is they circle to the downwind side, smell it safe before they go in there. So it's not as easy as just setting up over the bed because you jumped one.
Right.
To circle back in, it's a hard kill.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also not to make this too long-winded, but you got to consider the bump. Whether it's a hard bump or a soft bump. Now, a hard bump is where he gets your wind, he sees you, he's running 90 miles an hour out of there blowing.
Yeah.
Soft bump might be he takes a couple hops, looks around, and then just scoots out of there, and he doesn't look too excited. Just something happened. A soft bump is way more likely to come back than a hard bump.
All right. Pharrell asks, do we have spring turkey and no fall hunting?
I have fall hunting, but I don't really participate in it. If they come by while I'm bow hunting, I'll take a crack at them. I always have a tag. I've shot 2 fall turkeys, and I haven't recovered either of them.
Yeah, with the bow.
I haven't recovered them because I'm using deer hunting equipment. One of them I shot through the turkey into the ground, and then I know I killed it, but it flew about 500 yards and then fell dead out of the sky into the middle of a swamp. There was no finding it. And the other one I shot through and it ran off, and I never found it.
Yep. I've never killed one in the fall or even shot at one in the fall. We have a fall season.
I'm not going after them with a shotgun because I'm deer hunting.
Yeah. Yep. I usually buy a fall tag. I just don't ever really get around to chasing them around. Steve was asking if you're bear hunting this year, Dan.
I am not.
You didn't get your Michigan?
I ended up putting him for a point.
Oh, you did?
It didn't look like I was going to get a tag until like their late season, which would be like the week before October.
Oh.
I really didn't want to go and bear hunt right up to October. I'm on to some good deer in Wisconsin. I got an Iowa tag, and I really like hunting bears in early September.
Yeah.
So I took the point for now.
you have, I guess you got a better chance next year of drawing the season you want then, or the earlier.
Might take a couple of years to draw the season I want.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I got 7 points right now, so next year I'll have 8 for Michigan.
Bobber Down. I like that. I like that name. He asked, when hunting down a bed or particular bedding area and spot, how far apart do you space stand setups as to not burn out an area or hunt the same tree twice?
Well, that depends. I mean, I'll look at the bedding area and I'll look at the trails coming in and out. And if there's different situations for hunting that coming out different ways, I'll set up on both. A lot of times I'll have one setup for a bedding area. Sometimes I'll have 2 or 3. But in a lot of cases, I'm only hunting one of them because the sign only shows they're coming out one way at a certain time, like they're coming out a different way on a different time of the year. Sometimes I don't know. And I go around and I find that, okay, are they going into the cornfields or whatever? Because that's the way this trail went. Okay, there's sign there. I hunt that side. You don't see nothing. And you're like, well, maybe they're going to the oaks. There's sign that way too. You hunt the other side. But I really don't hunt it more than a couple times a year. Now, when I say that with a grain of salt because I don't really want to scare people away from hunting a little more than that. It's just that if you put like 3 hunts or more in a spot, those spots go downhill really quick.
Yeah.
So it's important not to overhunt them. However, my trail camera data that I've been doing has been showing me that these bucks, in a lot of cases, do come back after we're in there. After we check cameras or we're in there hunting, we're starting to see that those bucks come back, but they're a lot more leery,
Sure.
And it gets worse and worse every time you hunt it. I wouldn't recommend more than 3 times in a year in a season, honestly. And I think that's a little overdoing it. But I think I like the idea of hunting a spot once in a season and really letting it just settle down. As long as you know nobody else is getting in there.
Yeah.
And if other people are getting in there, you're probably hunting the wrong spots.
Right.
But when I say that, I've been doing a lot of scouting and I have a lot of spots, so.
Right. I just put the link to hop on tonight. If you guys want to get on, ask a question live, just follow that link and get on there. We haven't done that in a little while, so I figured I'd throw it in there tonight. Just make sure that you don't use any like profanities or anything like that. You are live here. So Tim has a good question for you, Dan. He says, you mentioned that finding sign in LBL, which is Land Between the Lakes in Kentucky, was difficult. I think you did a workshop down there or something.
Yeah, I did.
So he said, what do you think is the hardest aspect of hunting there, and how would you overcome it?
For me, it's trusting the terrain. I think those deer are bedding where I thought they'd be bedding. You just couldn't see the beds, right? Now, I could to a degree, but there wasn't shining rub lines coming in and out of them for the most part. But you could see by the terrain where they're going to be bedded because I've looked at deer bedding in that terrain for so long that I kind of have a good idea where they're at. I think for the average person, the most difficult part, and it would be for me really too, honestly, would be trusting the terrain because deer are going to move and bed based on the terrain and the wind. And you have to look at the ways that come in and out of that. Right. And just trust it because you're not going to have much for sign in those particular hills, the way they're shaped and the traveling on them. Yeah. Now you see some rubs in there and stuff. Don't get me wrong, but the beds on those rounded hills were shifting up and down those hills quite a bit, so you could see that the deer were moving their beds many times during the day, and because of that, they weren't leaving real good bed impressions to see where they bed, basically. You know what I mean? But right. If you look at it, they're still bedding leeward. They're still bedding where there's, benches and stuff like that. Thicker cover, edge, all that kind of stuff. You're still looking for that stuff. It just wasn't as obvious exactly where they're bedding in rolling hills versus steep hills, which is what the problem was for for LBL, and the trees weren't as mature, or I don't know how to say it. It was like there wasn't dead trees on the ground creating really good nests for
right.
beds.
I've never hunted an LBL. I've hunted around it a lot, but never inside of it actually.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you were on the Kentucky side, right? You weren't on the Tennessee side.
I believe we were in Kentucky.
Yeah. All right. Zeke says that so far Zeke has been hunting 2 to 5 hours at a time. He goes 2 to 4 times a week. Hasn't got one yet, but he's so gung ho. He really wants to get his first kill. It'll come. It'll come.
Tell him to just start shooting at dawn. Putting enough crossbow bolts out there, and eventually one will connect.
Oh, yeah. My grandpa always told me every year there's one with your name on it this year. You just got to be out there for it to walk by you.
I've always been a stats guy ever since I was a kid. And I can remember my dad would always get ticked off at me with that stuff. And he was always about food, and it's like, you put too much into this, And his comeback would always be, you get 0% of what you don't shoot at.
Yeah.
Because I'd pass stuff. You don't like that, You're out to deer hunting and you don't shoot them. You couldn't understand that.
Yeah.
Different times,
Oh yeah, no, my grandpa was the same way. He was all about that. He'd get mad if you passed one, really mad if you passed a deer, because he's like, that may be the only one you see this year, whatever.
I mean, I got to the point where I wouldn't tell him. I just didn't see them.
Yeah. And his other big thing was there's 5 bullets in that gun for a reason. They keep shooting. All right. Tristan asked, so he found 2 dead heads on his property, not far from each other, while chasing birds. So do you think this indicates that they were returning to their bedding area to die from whatever the cause was, or do you think they just fell over dead somewhere?
It's hard to say. I can say that I do find in real good bedding areas, often I'll find a lot of carcasses, dead deer, quite a few. I mean, I've been in somewhere you find 3 or 4 skulls, and you find a spot nobody's been in a while, because they do die in their bedding areas. They'll die when they're sleeping a lot. I mean, if they get sick, what do you do when you're sick? You go to bed and you lay there, right?
Yep.
But on the same token, depending on what happens to them, if they get hit by a car, a lot of times they don't make it back to their core bedding area. If they get hit by an arrow or a bullet, they don't make it back to their core bedding area. But if they die of a sickness, or they die slow, like an infection or something from a hit or something, they will go to their bedding areas and just lay there and die. So yeah, there is something to that, but it's not 100% like nothing is with deer.
Yeah.
But it's something to consider. If you found several in the same area, I'd probably look at the area a little closer.
Yep. All right. Steve asked us how big a part is a kayak in our tactics anymore.
For me, not much. I use one, and I got one spot where it comes in real handy. But one spot. Most of the spots that most people would use a kayak, I just walk to. I have a way of walking to them, and I'd rather do that than going through the water personally. But most people would kayak there. But there are some places that you can't get to without a kayak or a canoe or something. And then I will, or it's way more convenient with a kayak or canoe. But I don't use it very often. There's one spot I want to hunt that I know holds some really big bucks that I do need a canoe to get into.
Yep.
How about you?
I probably use one once a year. I bet, if I had to average it out. Depends where I'm hunting. Like down in Kentucky, if I go down there, I use them all the time down there, because all the public I hunt down there has a lot of good water access. Around here, not so much. I mean, in the Hoosier National, or where I hunt in the public around here, there's not a lot of water per se to get places.
I think about your farm. I think if you used a kayak or a canoe to access where you hunt on that farm, you'd be blowing all the deer out of their beds.
Yeah, right. I
think they're all bedding along the river and where you're at.
Right. So not very often, but I would if I had a good opportunity to. I've killed a couple deer in Kentucky using a kayak or canoe or
Yeah,
whatever, a boat.
it really is area specific. A guy asking me that, he might have way more of a reason to use a kayak than me.
Yeah, right. Yep, for sure. I used one up when I was hunting with Gary this year in Wisconsin. I didn't kill anything, but I used it to access. Someone was asking us if what kind of broadheads we're going to use this year, Dan.
I'm not positive yet. I'm going to test some different broadheads. Um, Josh had one of his buddies send me some pretty nice broadheads. I'm going to test those, but I might end up just using G5.
Yep.
See how they shoot.
Yep. I used the Montex last year, and then I used these razors this year. I don't know if anybody can see them, but I think these are the ones Dan's are talking about.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I'm going to shoot some of those and try them.
Yep.
But I do like the G5 strikers, so I'm going to compare the two.
Yep. Same. I had the Montex, the G5 Montex, and then I'll shoot these this year. They're called razors. I actually had these guys on. I don't know. They were back. They came down to my house a while back, and we recorded a podcast. It's not up yet. It'll go up sometime. They just give it an overview of their broadhead and stuff. It'll just be like a side one we'll do.
I have a lot of people ask me to use their broadheads, and
yeah,
I always feel bad because I always want to help everybody, you know.
Yeah, I know. Yep.
But I want to choose what works best for me.
Right.
So for me personally, I want to shoot the stuff and see what flies best, what has best penetration. And I would imagine, I'll get pretty good penetration off those big broadheads that you recommended. Looking at them, and looking at the shape and the style that they're built in.
Yeah.
But I know I get real good accuracy out of the strikers, so we'll see. I don't always get good accuracy out of everything. I mean, everybody's setup is different. People will be like, well, what broadhead should I use and stuff? You still got to shoot a broadhead and make sure it shoots good out of your system. Like for me, with a perfectly tuned bow, I was not doing well with the Montex.
Yeah.
But they're flying great for Josh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the strikers flew good for me. Everybody's got a different arrow length, a different string length,
it's all,
different bow setups, different releases, different rests. And they can get a little different flight out of different things, just the combination of things.
Right.
So you should find something that looks good and test it, Yep. It'd be kind of cool to have a collection of guys that all shoot different broadheads that you trade your old dull broadheads for people to try,
Yeah, right.
I could probably do that myself. I got boxes of them all over the place.
I know. Yep. All right. MDS, do you think certain facing slopes have the best buck bedding, like a northeast slope tend to catch the northwest winds? Winds good as they swirl back around.
Where I'm at in Wisconsin, if you have what would be probably a northwest wind would be our most common in the fall. So a southeast facing slope would probably be the best slope for bedding. It's not always that easy though. Usually they're kind of bendy and they got points and stuff associated with them. But points that generally point off of that slope going down in that direction so that they cover any kind of westerly wind. Sometimes you get those slopes where everything will work except for an east, those points. And those are usually dynamite, especially if you got something in there, like some turns in there where a deer could get in there in an east wind too. And some of them do. I mean, they get little side fingers and stuff like that. And, but generally I look at where I have my most common winds and the slopes that are leeward.
There you go. Philip the Wise asked if Mario shot a buck this year.
He did shoot a deer last year. I don't know. He kept telling me he was going to put a video up. Never got it up. So he's got a lot of problems in his family right now that it's not my business to talk about. But he's going through some hard times. So when he's ready, he'll put it up.
Nice one, though.
Yeah.
Daniel asks, how did you and Dan get started doing podcast and hunting together?
I put out a ad in the local newspapers and stuff, and I put it all over the internet. I wrote it on some walls in the bathroom. The only one that ever answered was Josh. He was like, I thought, well, he's the only one that wants to, So hoping somebody better qualified or something. But no, actually, I don't remember exactly, but I know that I was looking at some of the stuff Josh was doing. I really liked what he was doing. I like the fact that Josh is a very humble guy and that he kills a lot of big bucks. You wouldn't know it, listen to him on these podcasts, but he has quite the collection, and he's pretty modest about it. I don't like people that brag a lot, or just like really bold, and you know what I mean. But I think Josh could use a little bit more, putting it out there what he's done, just so people know. But I like Josh as a person. I like what he's doing. I think he's really good and skilled in what he's doing with the podcast and stuff. And the more I get to know him, the more I like him. I think he's a good person to be working with. And I think he's got a great future ahead of him at his age with the number of deer he has on his wall and the skill that he has, the skill set.
Well, thanks, Dan. I guess the truth of how we started hunting together was I went to a workshop. I don't know if it was quite a few years ago now, and just invited Dan down to hunt with me if he ever got bored or wanted to come hunt Indiana. And then he told me to just text him if he tagged out in Wisconsin. And he said, maybe I'll come down. And he tagged out that next year early. And I texted him and I was like, hey, offers on the table if you want to come down and hunt. And he's like, well, what are you doing this weekend? And I'm like, I'm deer hunting. And then he trucked down here, stayed in the camper.
The video that we did Operation Indiana?
Yeah, it has like 700,000 views or something crazy.
Yeah, I remember.
We didn't shoot anything or anything.
Right. We're standing in front of your barn or the barn on your property.
Yeah.
Talking on the camera, and some crazy bee attacked me.
Yeah, I think so.
Sting me out of the blue.
Yeah. My cousin still mentions that letting you borrow that RV the other day. I saw him the other day, and he's like, you still hang out with that guy that slept in my RV? I'm like, yep. He's like, I'm gonna charge him next time. I'm like, oh, whatever. The podcast though, like a little over a year ago, me and Dan just kind of came up with the idea of nobody was doing this type of like a live show, and kind of based it off of other industries do this type of thing where there's like a live show almost every day, whether it be news or sports or whatever the case may be. Nobody was doing that in hunting. I mean, we don't do it every day, obviously, but a couple times a week. So, and the podcast, and it's more of a show than a podcast.
Right.
I mean, you can call it whatever you want as long as you watch it. I don't care. But the podcast world in hunting is kind of saturated. There's a lot of them. So we were trying to do something different and unique. And this is what we kind of came up with.
The funny part about podcasts is, and I'm not knocking them at all, but any Joe can make a podcast nowadays. And if a guy's got no skill and he's got nothing he can do, but he wants to be in hunting, he just makes a podcast, and just runs around and gets whoever he can get onto his show. I don't really care for podcasts. You hear these guys over and over and over again. It's the same group of guys going on different podcasts. I like a unique show. I like the idea that we can talk about what's going on at the time. I like the idea that we can get on here and talk live about what happened last night during the hunting season. Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. I like the idea that we can interact with the people that are watching. I like that somebody can call in and just bring up a topic and we can discuss it for a while. Yeah, I like the news segments.
Me too.
So I think it's a great thing that's going on, and I think it'll just keep growing.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think it's super unique that what we have with the community we have. Like, there's not very many shows where people can talk to us like right here, right now. Via comments or coming in here live. But yeah, that was it. That was kind of how it all started. As far as this little show goes,
Mario was
Kyle.
talking maybe bringing back the Beast podcast when things straighten out for him.
Yep,
And
that'd be good.
that'd be cool because he was really, really good at that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as far as a podcaster, I thought he was above and beyond other people.
Yep.
You listen to that much, Josh?
I used to. I probably listened to them like each one a handful of times. You know, at least some of the original ones.
Yeah, I hope he brings them down.
Yep. Me too. It was good. Kyle asked if I have 100 different spots to hunt in Indiana, so you never sit in the same tree twice. I probably have 200. Yeah, I have a bunch of spots.
1.86 million, I think.
No, not that many, but yes, I spent my whole life scouting around different areas around here, and I also pretty blessed to have a lot of public land, so I have a lot of spots. Yeah, I think it's a really important part of becoming successful. You know, Ron asked if we've ever hunted block islands. I don't know exactly what that is. Maybe you do, Dan, but I'm kind of assuming like a little.
It's a place.
Is it?
I don't know.
I'm kind of assuming like a little woods in the middle of a field or something like that. I don't know. Block island.
Ron's garage. It'd be nice to know what a block island is.
Yeah, you may have to elaborate. We'll get back to you.
We could guess.
We'll see what he says.
We could make something up. I mean, it'd be fun. You know, block islands made out of cinder blocks.
No Slayer. Yeah, how would you hunt that? If you could block one into a cinder block block. Those Slayer asks, what does he have to do to get us boys lured into coming to his secret spot in Michigan?
I don't know.
Depends how secret it is.
Yeah. Send Josh some trail cam pics.
There you go. Oh, that's funny. Brett asks, "The deer still bed on oxbows if it's timber?"
Absolutely.
So okay, there you go. I'm assuming it means there's just not a lot of cover on it.
Well, if it's timber, I mean, I think he's saying if everything's woods, if it's not cattails, it's not marsh, it's not tangles, it's just everything's woods, but it goes up to the river and it's an oxbow. Well, the edges are still going to be thicker than the woods, right? So those oxbows are still going to be good. They're going to be kind of like points, right? Up against the river.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. So I would say, yes, they do. And yes, I've hunted. Matter of fact, that really wide buck of mine came from a timbered oxbow. Now, it had grass and stuff in it because usually down by the river, it's lower, right?
Right.
But it was in woods, big woods.
Yep. All right. This will be a good way to end the show. We got to call in. It's Elizabeth.
Hey, how you doing?
What's going on, guys?
Long time no see.
Oh, it has been absolute hell. Just a bunch of problems. So I got to tell you this. Dan, I'm like literally right up the road from you right now. So waving at you. But I went out yesterday, walk all the way out, go where I'm hunting at. And I realized that the quiver of arrows I have are my field points. How many you guys ever done that? Go out, you're shooting field points, and then all of a sudden you get out there and realize your hunting setup's not your hunting setup?
I got a good one for you, Elizabeth. I walked all the way out to my tree stand once when I was going like day after day after day. And I was really tired because I wasn't getting any sleep. And got to my tree stand. It was gun season. And
right.
Realized I had forgot my tree stand. I got all the way to the tree. Realized it wasn't on my back.
Okay. So you got to your tree, but you didn't have a tree stand because it wasn't on your back.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, idiot. So I'm thinking it's only like a quarter mile back. And I'm running a little late, but if I lean my gun against the tree, just leave it there and run, I can make it back. And I get almost back to the truck, and I can see the truck ahead of me, and I'm out of breath, and I'm walking. I look beside me, and this rack comes out of the grass and looks at me, and it's just kind of hiding in the grass, and it's a big buck staring at me in the grass. And I'm like, if I had my gun, I could shoot it. So I go in a circle because I know if I stopped, it was going to run because it was locked on me. It was probably actually bedded there watching the parking lot. So I went in this big circle, went all the way back to my tree, ran to the tree, got my gun, and then ran that back out there. And when I got to the spot where that buck was, he was still there, and he stood up when I stopped, and I shot him.
Oh, no kidding.
So I got him because I forgot my tree stand. I also forgot my gun the first time I went by him. So I mean, you can't have much more luck than that on that one.
Oh man.
You know, so some of the craziest hunts we have are some of the looniest stories. You're just like, how can I possibly get anything? And then you're just like, dumb luck. Hi, how are you?
Usually when it happens, you think there's absolutely no way this could go right.
Right.
That's usually when it happens.
So yeah, Josh, you were actually reading that question I had earlier. It wasn't really a question. It was me being a kind of a smart rear end.
I thought maybe it was, but I also didn't want to.
Because it's like I sit here and I listen to everybody, and they're like, oh, it's too hot to hunt. I'm like, what do you think? The deer just shrivel up and they like crawl into the mud or something? Like they still got to survive.
They don't exist if it's over 60.
Right. I'm flabbergasted at times, but anyways. Yeah, I just wanted to share that little story. Me going out.
I've walked 100 yards like to the stand and like realized I don't have my bow in my hand numerous times. It happens more than I want to admit. Well,
I mean, you guys see, I'm out here in my semi, so it's few and far between that I get places that I can actually park this truck and then get out in the woods and then realize that I'm such an idiot that I left my hunting arrows that are set up at the house. And I'm like,
so Elizabeth, do you carry your stuff with you on the road? That's funny. Oh, nice.
Yep.
You are hardcore.
Yeah, like I said, I get all over the country, and I get out when I can get out. I've got my bows, I've got arrows, I've got
nice.
fishing poles.
That's
I got
awesome.
everything.
How many states have you hunted in? Do you keep track of that?
17 states that I've hunted. Yeah. So
that's quite a few,
I've lived all over the country.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
but anyways, I'm getting ready to take off because I got to go to Minneapolis.
Yeah, we'll let you go. Thanks for calling in.
All right, guys. Have fun.
A good one.
Bye.
I went. I took Mitch Huffman from Venado out hunting once.
Yeah.
And we did this little drive. We'd been hunting the whole day. We did this little drive, and me and him were the killers, just still hunting through this woods while these guys went into the cattails beside us. And I knew something would come out. And this big doe came running out and hopped right up to him and stopped in front of him and looked at him. And he pulls his gun up, it goes click, and he goes,
"Oh no,
I never loaded it." The whole day he was walking around with an unloaded gun.
Oh man, he works for a bow company well, no, they got guns now too. Never mind.
No, from Venado.
Mitch. I'm thinking the wrong Mitch.
He makes the flannel camo.
Yeah, the flannels we wear all the time.
Matter of fact, I bought a flannel from him. I never wore it yet. I got it down here someplace. I don't know.
I wear that thing.
But he's got one that's like old school camo flannel.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Like the duck camo, like the
like the old school, like Fred Berry used to wear.
Yeah,
stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he did that in a flannel. So
that's good.
I saw that I had to buy one.
Yeah, that's awesome. That flannel, that Venado flannel I have, I killed a bunch of deer in that thing. Those things are nice.
I haven't talked to Mitch in probably, a couple months at least, a few months. See what's up with him.
Yep. Even just like regular everyday wear, it's good stuff.
Oh yeah, I love that stuff.
Yeah. Someone, Rob said venado is deer in Spanish. Is that true?
It is. Yep.
Is it?
That's yeah.
That's funny. I have a story about something stupid I did, like you and Elizabeth were talking about leaving stuff. I shot a doe one time when I was young with a 20 gauge. I was by myself, and I like leaned my 20 gauge up against a tree while I was, cleaning the doe and stuff. I left that sucker lay right there and forgot about it. Like loaded the doe up, put it in the truck, went home, and next morning I was like, where the frick's my gun at? And then
It dawned on you?
It dawned on me, and I had to go tell my dad because I was young, and he was pretty irritated. But we went and found it. It took me a long time to find it too. Took me a while to find the tree I leaned against. But we got another call in here, then we'll wrap it up. Everybody, Greg.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, good man. How are you?
Good. I've always wanted to call in. I've never really caught a live show. I have a young family, so excited that you take my call. Really am. So,
no problem.
One comment I wanted to make, I don't know if he was referring to it, but there's a block island off the east coast off Connecticut and Rhode Island. And I know there's a deer hunt there every single year. It's a little island off the east coast. I don't know if that's the one he was referring to or she was referring to, but
what is it, like in the ocean or something?
Yeah, so my family, my mom's family was from the East Coast. We used to go out there all the time, and basically it's, I don't know, probably an hour on a ferry you take out to this island. I've talked to the people there. There's an overpopulation of deer on this island, and you can get tags for it. It's not very big, but I've been on the island, that specific block. Like I said, I don't know if it's the same island.
Right, that's cool.
Yeah. How big do you think it is in acres?
Oh man, that's a great question. I honestly don't know. It's big enough to hold a decent deer population. We used to do fishing on the East Coast a lot, and a lot of fishing guides we go with say they'd see deer swimming from this island all the way to inland and back and forth, and I couldn't even fathom that distance, but they do. But it's a big enough island. It takes about an hour to get around. So,
okay.
Yeah. But yeah, maybe that's what they're referring to. But anyways, my question is this. So I have this buck kind of in a farm country area. It's a classic bedding situation where he's monitoring human access. There's one access and one out. And he sits on the end of this point of the woodlot. And it was soybeans last year. And I hunted him multiple times, had a couple opportunities where it just didn't go my way, right? But the year before it was corn, and it's corn again. So I'm just wondering, will he still, or Dan or Josh, will these bucks still use these beds of monitoring human access if they lose their sight because there's corn in the way now? The human access from the woodlot's like 40 yards. So he's bedding, watching human access. It was soybeans. He could see the farmer drive down. He could see me walk if I walk that to go in the hunt. But now there's going to be corn there in the way instead. So I'm just curious if should I still expect him to bed there, or is he going to move somewhere else? Or is it not based on necessarily vision all the time in terms of him bedding there? So
it depends. I mean, it might be vision based only, and it might not. The only way to really know is to check, really. I mean, if he beds there, he might or might not bed there on corn years. I mean, sometimes it changes, sometimes it don't. And it's quite possible too that it changes in a way that 180 with the wind, like the corn becomes the cover, if you know what I mean, and he smells the access instead of watching it.
Oh, I never thought of that. Interesting, cool. Yeah, it's like the sneakiest little bed, and I mean, I actually bumped him going to check a camera last year, and I didn't realize he was even there, and then it was game on. But I was just curious. So yeah, that wind, I never really even thought of that, man. So I appreciate that. But
I'll tell you this, Greg, like at least around here, I've never had a farm that gets worse because there's corn on it versus beans, at least during hunting season. So
sure,
I'm talking about a specific bed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
right.
I'm not necessarily like thinking this farm will get worse necessarily, but I mean, he was there a lot last year, and I had to figure out different ways to kind of get at him. And I just didn't know because now it's corn. There's going to be, 6 to 8 foot tall corn stalks in front of him if he'd switch it up. So, but the wind The wind is an interesting one just because now that kind of changes how I'm thinking approaching that area, because there was a bed, I guess, that didn't make sense to me that would have been if the wind was out of the other direction, which he could be utilizing. But anyways, I appreciate you guys' help with that, and thanks so much for taking my call. I'm huge fans, been huge fans since day one, man, back in the day, and I just I appreciate everything you've done to teach all of us how to kill some deer. So
thanks, man. Thanks for calling. That was a good question too.
Yeah, thanks, and thanks so much, Josh. Love the podcast.
Awesome.
I gotta tell you, Dan, one of my favorite podcasts you'll remember, I was listening to Turkey Hunting Podcast. It was about your story going to Menards to order all your stuff for your shed. I just re-listened to that one. It's just a hoot to listen to. So anyone needs a good, entertaining start to a podcast, it's like last year or the year before sometime during this time of year. So anyway, have a good night, fellas. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Greg. Bye. That's a good question. We never had that asked, I don't think, about if a deer loses his vision of a parking area, if he'll move beds. He's thinking elite level there, Dan. He'll end up killing one there.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's get off here, everybody. Thanks for asking all your questions, everybody. We had a lot of interaction tonight, so it was good. And we'll see you guys later in the week. Bye, everybody.